So the Nets blew out the Warriors. That was a team that they demolished. And watching the game, I think we can all agree that the Golden State Warriors, the team looked very messy. I think that's a good word to put it as. It didn't look like it fit around Curry. I don't even know if having Draymond in that lineup would have made even much of a difference. But the question that a lot of people are wondering, and something that's going to probably stain Curry if he doesn't end up doing this, is can Curry lead this Warriors team to the playoffs? We've seen stars before, Russell Westbrook in 2017 after KD left, lead that OKC team to the playoffs. We've seen James Harden before Dwight Howard with Jeremy Lin and Chandler Parsons, and not a very good team lead a Rockets team to the playoffs. We've seen superstars lead their team to the playoffs, and now people are looking at Curry and saying, do the same thing.
Yeah.
Do the same thing.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate for him because the West is so stacked this year, so it will be a tough task for anybody. But the biggest problem for this Warriors team is for the past 5 years or so, we've heard everything about and we've talked all about Steph Curry's gravity. And he's got the most gravity in the league. I think that's fair to say. You know, what he totally changes a defense and how they scheme. And you saw what the Nets did last night. They were essentially running a box and one face guard on him. That's a high school defense. You don't see that in the NBA. But they did it, and it worked. And if there is any team that should be susceptible to getting demolished by Steph Curry, it's the Nets. All they do is play man-to-man, go underneath screens, switch everything. That should be a field day for Steph Curry. But all they had to do was make one small adjustment, and he was essentially neutralized. He put up 20, 10, and 4, but he shot 7 of 21. He did not play well at all.
2 for 10 from 3.
And he did not look like himself. And the problem is, like I said, we've spoken about Steph Curry's gravity, and rightfully so. But one thing that has been majorly downplayed is Klay Thompson's gravity. Because just as much as Steph has, he has the same amount of gravity, and he causes the defense to change just as well. Because when Klay is on the court, you can't box in one Steph Curry. You know, you could try a triangle in 2, but that's not working against an NBA team. So that makes it such a tougher assignment to guard. Draymond is not changing the defense like that. I like Draymond. He's a solid role player, and he was a great number 3 and number 4 piece for them. But he's offensively just not changing the defense in the way that Klay would. And Klay's not coming to help them. So who's going to be the guy to step up? Is it going to be Andrew Wiggins, who looks like he is almost taking a step back, not made any progress in becoming the player that we thought he would in Golden State? Is it going to be Kelly Oubre? You know, I like Kelly Oubre as an option, but he's not Klay Thompson. He's not going to change the way a defense game plans. James Wiseman looked good late, but it just seemed to me at times like he looked like he was in slow motion. Like he's got to catch up to the NBA speed and fast, and he didn't have any preseason to adjust. It looked last night like he was a little lost out there, in the middle of the ocean with no life vest for the beginning of the game. And although he looked good late, it was in garbage time. So
yeah, he basically he didn't have a good game. I mean, I don't think that Wiseman in the box score showed that he had a great game because 19 and 6 it jumps out. Most of those buckets were late, early. Not only did he look lost, to me, I thought he looked very clumsy.
Yeah, he just looked so slow.
For a second overall pick, I'm not expecting that. For a second overall pick, I'm expecting you to be there, be confident. It felt like he was clumsy out there. It did feel like he was lost. And you talk about Wiggins and Oubre, and before I talk about them, I'll talk about Klay for a little bit. I mean, Klay changes the whole dynamic of their offense. When you talk about the Warriors, they revolutionized offense in the way that now every team wants to go 5 out, right? But the great thing about Golden State is that in their prime, in their heyday with not even KD, with Curry, Klay, Barnes, Draymond, and Bogut, they never had 5 out, a 5-out lineup. They played small, that's about it, but they never had 5 shooters on the court at the same time because when you have Curry and Klay out there, they basically account for having 5 shooters on the court at the same time. You know, when they set so many screens, now 2 people got to come up to make sure they don't shoot, and that leaves one guy open, so you always have a numbers advantage. But when there's just one shooter, because I don't think Wiggins is a shooter. He's not a shooter. He's a very streaky, inconsistent shooter, like 34% for his career. He shot 2 for 6 yesterday, 4 for 16 from the field.
Looked bad.
Wiggins was horrible yesterday. Then you look at Oubre. He's not a shooter. He's more of a slasher that can shoot if he gets hot. But he's not a pure shooter. He's very inconsistent. So you look at Wiggins and Oubre, they're not shooters. You look at Wiseman, even though he has a nice 15-footer, he can step out at times. You don't trust him taking a lot of threes. He's not a shooter either. And Draymond, we know that when the Golden State was with KD, Clay, and him, that was the guy getting left open. And he didn't disappoint because he would miss a lot. Teams would keep leaving him open. So this team is made up of guys who can't really shoot. Curry is the only one. He's going to face these defenses all year long, and I don't think that the bench can make up for it either. Kayvon Looney, Marquise Chris, Brad Wanamaker. Maybe if they got Jeremy Lin, that would have been huge. Jordan Poole, maybe he takes a step up. Kent Bazemore isn't too bad, but it looked bad out there for the Warriors. And I said this on Twitter. I said that I think Stephen Curry is like an Anthony Davis type of superstar. Not that because I think he's better than Anthony Davis, but in his prime. I think Anthony Davis might have the edge right now. Yeah. I say that when I say that Anthony Davis never carried the Pelicans to the playoffs consistently. He did for a year or two. That's about it when everybody was healthy on the team, but he didn't carry them consistently. But we know when you put Anthony Davis on a winning team, their ceiling skyrockets because of his defensive versatility, how great he is offensively. That's the same thing for Curry. He's not gonna ISO like James Harden 30 times a game and give you 40. He needs a team around him to, in a sense, build the offense around him when he runs around these screens and they know how to play with him, because he was open a couple times yesterday and they just missed him because they don't know how to play with him yet. He lifts a team's ceiling up, but he cannot lift a team that is in the bottom of the barrel to relevancy. Yeah. He can't do it.
And you mentioned the name that I was going to bring up, James Harden. I think that personally Steph is a better player than James Harden. I think it's a toss-up, but personally I take Steph Curry over James Harden. I think that Steph is at his peak a top 5 player in the league talent-wise, but his play style is just not built to carry a team. Like, he's not a LeBron, he's not a James Harden where you can give him the ball and say, go win a game, because defensively, he's much easier to neutralize, I feel like, individually, if you isolation. Key in on him, than a James Harden or a LeBron or somebody like that, even a Kawhi, where, you could just give them the ball, and no matter what defense is thrown at them, you feel like they're going to get the job done. And I just don't feel that with Steph Curry without Klay Thompson around. And, I'm trying not to overreact to this first week of the season, but there are some real big red flags for the Warriors.
See, what I think is that, and it's not a bad thing to have to be that player that you can't carry, even though you make a team ceiling higher. And I say that because
it's only a few guys that can do it.
I say that because the 2 guys in the league outside of LeBron that we think of in terms of carrying teams to the playoffs are James Harden and Russell Westbrook. What is something that we talk about when we talk about both of them in terms of their how they are as players? What is their fit? Why didn't any team trade for a former MVP in Westbrook? No team was interested. Why? He can't fit. He can't fit everywhere. James Harden, why are the Nets and the Heat so hesitant to pull a trigger? Because how's the fit going to be like?
They're not a puzzle piece. They are the puzzle.
Exactly. Like, how's the fit going to be like? When you look at Curry, if he was on a trade block right now, I think he'd be gone already from Golden State.
Anybody would trade for him because he fits anywhere.
Yeah, so Curry, you don't have to worry about fit. But with these guys that can carry teams like Westbrook and Harden, you have to worry about fit because they're the guys that are kind of doing most of the bulk of the work. And so that's why I don't think it's totally a bad thing. But then again, you said it. It's just one game, and it was against potentially the best team in the NBA, that the best team this season that's going to be in the NBA. So we have to see them against teams like maybe an Indiana or in Atlanta, or teams that are kind of like the Timberwolves, the Utah Jazz, different teams that are kind of going to be in the lower seeding of the Western and Eastern Conference, or even in the middle of the pack. I think even though this game looked horrible, we still have to see more to really make a judgment on whether Curry can lead this team to the playoffs.
Yeah, and I had them at 9 in my preseason preview, and I feel pretty good about where I had them at. I think they're going to be a 9 or 10 seed. I think they're going to get in that play-in game, maybe up to an 8, but I don't see them being in that top crop of Western Conference talent because, you look at the teams that I had ahead of them. The Nuggets, the Lakers, the Clippers, the Blazers, I don't even see them close to those teams right now. And then you have the Rockets, who they have all the problems in the world, but just speaking solely basketball-wise, I don't see them close to the Rockets. The Mavericks with Luka, the Jazz, the Suns, and then even teams behind them like the Pelicans. It's going to be tough for them to, find their way into that pack.
The key for them is if Wiggins can hit open shots and so can Oubre.
Yeah, Wiggins needs to step up. For me, that's what it comes down to at the end of the day, because Oubre, like you said, is more of a slashing type, and he'll do a great job defensively. He'll rebound for you. He's kind of like a better Draymond in my eyes.
No,
but
hell no.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. Maybe offensively, but like in terms of like all around player.
No. That's what I mean. Okay. Offensively, he brings more to the table offensively, but he'll do everything for you in spurts. He doesn't do everything better than Draymond does, but offensively, he's a little bit better than Draymond, but he's still not going to add an extra element to that offense. He'll be a nice piece for them, but the guy who needs to step up and change the dynamic of the offense is Andrew Wiggins. He's the second guard in a system that is built to have two really good guards in it.
And he's the guy that's been there since last year, so he's the one that should adjust the best. Oubre is just getting in here. So Wiggins, he's been here for a year. He should already be ready to go, and it looked like he wasn't.
But I was laughing last night when Chris Webber said that he liked Andrew Wiggins' demeanor. Meanwhile, for his entire career now, the mark on him has been he's one of the laziest guys in the league. It was his fault that Jimmy Butler got ran out of Minnesota, and we see how that went with Jimmy going to the finals.
I love Chris Webber. He was a superstar player, but he's a bench warmer.
Color commentator. He's not a good analyst.
He's really, really bad sometimes. Sometimes I'm watching it and I'm like, that's so obvious.
It just concerns me that Andrew Wiggins is still the guy that we thought he was, and he was in Minnesota. He was supposed to be Maple Jordan. He's got all the talent in the world. Nobody's ever questioned that. And he went out and got buckets in Minnesota just because they were a bad team and he had the ball a lot. But at the end of the day, I just don't think he's a championship player. I don't think he's a playoff type player. I just think he's a guy playing basketball aimlessly with no real work ethic. Because if he had the work ethic, he'd be an all-star caliber player right now.